The earth breathing, ancient and alive in a surge of fiery motion. 5 volcanoes.
Black Diamond Pool at Yellowstone now.
You know all about the Old Faithful geyser at Yellowstone National Park, but this is even more.
A rare sight at Yellowstone National Park today, a hydrothermal explosion.
National Park, the very close call with a geyser raining.
What if the most peaceful spot in America turned out to be the starting point for the biggest disaster in human history? If Yellowstone, that famous national park with its hot springs and great scenery, was really hiding a fury that could wipe out a whole continent in just a few days, would you believe we're still safe? Right now, deep under that ground that seems so still, magma is shifting around, pressure is building up, and the surface is quietly rising. Unusual hydrothermal explosions, long strings of earthquakes, and spiking measurements aren't showing up here and there anymore. They're hitting all at once, fast and without warning. Yellowstone isn't quiet anymore. It's sending out signals that we can't ignore any longer. The problem isn't just one volcano. What's scarier is the timing. When the movements under Yellowstone line up with big upheavals all over the planet, you've got to ask, is this just geology, or is it part of a bigger chain of signs that the Bible warned about? Do you feel like the pace of the world is speeding up? Do you notice everything is happening so fast, so perfectly timed, so right on cue? If Yellowstone is really waking up, then the question isn't whether it'll erupt, it's where we stand in all this. And to figure that out, we have to start with what's going on right under Yellowstone, right now. So, don't skip any of this information, and come along with me as we dig deep into the truth that God has placed behind these earthquakes. Yellowstone is waking up. What if the safest spot in America turned out to be the starting point for a disaster we couldn't stop? Yellowstone isn't just a national park with hot springs and tourists anymore. Right now, under that calm-looking ground, something huge is stirring, building up, and sending out signals that make anyone watching feel uneasy. That worry doesn't come from imagination. It's from the numbers that keep going up day by day, hour by hour. While we're going about our usual lives, Yellowstone is moving to a different rhythm. Pressure is building, the ground is swelling, and the monitoring systems are shaking non-stop, like they're trying to tell us something. And if you pay close attention, you'll see those signs aren't scattered or rare anymore. They're coming fast and thick, too many to brush off. On June 12, 2025, at Black Diamond Pool in Biscuit Basin, Yellowstone, a sudden hydrothermal explosion ripped through the quiet. A column of boiling water and rock debris shot hundreds of feet into the air in just seconds. Visitors panicked and ran. Trails were closed, and the video spread quickly, putting Yellowstone under special watch by scientists. Just weeks earlier, Steamboat Geyser, the world's tallest geyser, had erupted strongly on April 14, and then again in the summer, with water temperatures around 192 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not the usual pattern. The USGS noted these changes happening in a tight cluster, not spread out like in past years, making questions about Yellowstone's hydrothermal system more urgent than ever. According to official data, Yellowstone averages more than 1,500 earthquakes a year. But in 2025, earthquake swarms showed up, with unusual density and length, focused deep under the caldera that's about 30 by 45 miles wide. These small but steady shakes don't damage buildings, but geologists watch them closely because they show shifts in pressure and hot fluids below. Precise GPS stations, accurate to the millimeter, show the ground swelling noticeably in some areas, while sulfur dioxide gas is escaping at higher levels than normal. The chemistry in many hot springs has changed suddenly, pointing to disruptions in the underground paths for heat and gas. All this data comes from over 50 seismic and monitoring stations running non-stop, not guesses. USGS scientists explain that this could be normal activity for a living supervolcano, with the odds of a big eruption around 1 inch 730,000 each year. They say there's no sign of new magma rising fast, and Yellowstone has gone through these breathing cycles before without disaster. But that's where a real concern starts, because in 2025, Yellowstone isn't alone in the bigger picture. Looking wider, the world saw about 63 eruptions from 58 different volcanoes that year. From Klyuchevskoy in Russia's Kamchatka sending ash about 6 miles high on August 4, to Reykjanes in Iceland erupting strongly in July before pausing early August, the Earth's rhythm seems oddly in sync. Even spots without eruptions showed notable unrest. Campi Flegrei in Italy kept swelling and having more earthquakes, based on studies released in May 2025, while Mount Spur in Alaska had ongoing issues from 2024 into March 2025. When you put these hotspots next to Yellowstone, it's not just about each one separately. It's about what the whole system might be heading toward. Revelation 8-5 says, "And the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake." That wasn't written as science, but it's eerie when we see fire, shaking, and noises from deep underground happening at the same time all over the planet. The USGS and other science groups stress there's no sign Yellowstone is about to erupt in some doomsday way. They point to data models, geologic history, and stats to calm people down. Those points are solid in pure science, but they leave open another question. Is science seeing the pieces, but missing the full picture? Isaiah 24-19-20 says, "The earth is violently broken. The earth is split open. The earth is shaken exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall totter like a hut." That's not tied to one place. It's about a global state where the usual stability is gone. When Yellowstone shakes, while the whole planet does too, calling it coincidence gets harder to buy. Yellowstone might not erupt, but it's not sleeping quietly either. The signals it's sending are loud enough to make us stop and face reality. The system we're living on is more fragile than we think. And if this is just the warm-up, the big question isn't, when will it blow? But what are we getting ready for next? Because if Yellowstone is just the opening chapter, then all these volcanoes waking up around the world might be telling a much bigger story. One that, when the last piece falls into place, we'll wish we'd listened to the warnings from the start. Global Volcanic Chain 2025. Eruptions, tremors, explosions. The year 2025 didn't start quietly. Instead, it kicked off with a series of rumbles from deep in the earth, happening at the same time across different continents. From the Pacific Ring of Fire to the North Atlantic mid-ocean ridge, from Asia to the Americas, ash clouds, lava flows, and red alerts popped up so often that the global volcano map looked crowded with hardly any empty spots. In just 1 year, the world saw more than 63 eruptions from 58 volcanoes, a number that's pretty startling when you think about the planet's usual rhythm. Geological monitoring centers kept posting updates, and international news outlets ran one breaking news headline after another, like they couldn't catch a break. The overall feeling spread. This wasn't just some local events anymore. Based on compiled data, from January to December 2025, the number of eruptions went above the yearly average, which usually sits around 50 to 70. What stood out wasn't just the count, but how they happened at the same time. Places thousands of miles apart lighting up in the same window, giving the Earth an unusual beat. On the 4th of August 2025, Klyuchevskoy in Kamchatka, Russia, blew up strongly, sending an ash column about 6 miles high. Flights got rerouted, and thousands of people had to evacuate quickly. Satellite images showed the ash cloud spreading fast, reminding everyone that even an eruption in a remote spot can affect things far away. Around the same time, the Reykjanes Peninsula in Iceland kept up its lava flows from July into early August. Bright red molten rock poured over older lava fields, turning the area into a sea of fire, covering several square miles. Local authorities raised alerts multiple times, while folks living nearby stayed on edge for months. In the Americas, Popocatépetl, the volcano close to busy population centers in Mexico, started shaking with earthquake swarms in November, ending a fairly quiet stretch that had lasted decades. Thermal cameras picked up clear changes, forcing officials to tighten no-go zones and keep reassuring the public. According to the Smithsonian, by September 2025, 44 eruptions were still going on or had just wrapped up, with activity picking up sharply after a quieter period before. A report from geophysicist Stephen Burns, released in November 2025, pointed out that the worry wasn't only the numbers, but how ongoing and widespread these events were. When you look at this global eruption chain alongside what's happening at Yellowstone, things start to connect more clearly. Earthquake swarms in the Yellowstone caldera happened around the same time as unrest at Campi Flegrei in Italy, where the ground kept lifting and small quakes increased, based on research published in May 2025. In New Zealand, Taupo hadn't had a big eruption, but it stayed under close watch because of changing background signals. In that setting, our feelings shifted from just keeping up with the news to watching a chain of events roll out too fast to get used to. With alert maps constantly changing colors, staying calm got harder. Matthew 24:7 records Jesus' words, "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places." This Bible verse doesn't give scientific details, but it echoes like a warning when earthquakes in various places isn't abstract anymore. It's headlines repeating in geology reports. Of course, not everyone sees these events through a prophecy lens. Many volcanologists say 2025 just shows the natural ups and downs of a living planet. GeoNet in New Zealand confirms Taupo hasn't shown serious unrest signs, and USGS keeps stressing there's no evidence of a super eruption coming soon. Their reasoning comes from long-term stats, geological models, and thousands of years of eruption history. From that view, a bunch of volcanoes active in the same year doesn't have to mean something special. It's just a coincidence in natural cycles. Science here takes a careful approach and avoids jumping to conclusions. Still, some observers argue that approach misses a key part: the global pattern. Smithsonian Daily Reports in December 2025 noted times with up to 22 notable geological events in a short span. For them, it's not about individual volcanoes, but the hard-to-explain synchronization. Between those two views, the question moves from who's right or wrong to how should we make sense of this? When scientific data says one thing and the sense of something unusual says another, personal belief and interpretation come into play. Revelation 6:12 describes, "The earth shook violently, the sun became black as sackcloth, and the moon became like blood." For many, that's symbolic imagery. But when fire, ash, and shaking hit multiple continents at once, those words take on a different feel. Not distant, not vague. At this point, calling the global eruption chain the Lord's roar or just normal geological activity depends on how each person reads the signs. What's certain is that 2025 shook up the sense of stability the world was used to, forcing us to face bigger questions about what's ahead. So what do you think? When volcanoes around the planet all speak up together, is it just nature's random chance? Or a warning we're trying to explain in the safest way for ourselves? It's not a question to panic over, but one to think about our place in the bigger picture. Because if this global volcano activity is just the next chapter after Yellowstone, then the story clearly isn't over. And when fires have started in so many places at once, what the world faces next might not be about if, but how. The fire of judgment. It's no longer just faint rumbles deep underground or scattered signals that get overlooked in technical reports. Under Yellowstone, what's building right now is a mass of energy big enough to rewrite Earth's history. Fire isn't just a metaphor anymore. It's real, heavy, smoldering, and unforgiving. And in this moment, we're all standing pretty close to that edge. Maybe you've felt it yourself. That nameless unease when news about volcanoes, earthquakes, gas releases, and ash clouds comes so thick and fast you can hardly catch your breath. We're not reading the news the same way we used to. We read it on high alert, like we're waiting for something to push the world past its breaking point. Under the seemingly peaceful ground of Yellowstone National Park lies one of the most complex magma systems on the planet. Geophysical studies show the main magma chamber sits about 3 to 10 miles deep, stretching across an area roughly 30 by 45 miles, holding thousands of cubic miles of molten rock at around 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. This isn't the thin, runny basalt magma you see elsewhere. It's thick rhyolite, sticky, and high in silica, the kind known for causing massive eruptions. In 2025, USGS monitoring stations recorded an unusual rise in sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide gases escaping from fumaroles. The chemistry in some hot springs shifted suddenly, with higher levels of chloride and silica in a short time. Ground in parts of the caldera swelled by a few inches over just months, a rate that's fast for normal geologic cycles. At the same time, earthquake swarms weren't just small, isolated clusters anymore. Many lasted weeks, focused at depths of 5 to 10 miles, pointing to fluids and gases moving under high pressure. These are the kinds of signs volcanologists watch closely, since they show the magma system down below is rearranging itself. Revelation 8-7 says, "The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up." In this context, that image of fire isn't abstract anymore. It lines up directly with the heat, ash, and lava that could cover hundreds of thousands of square miles in a huge eruption scenario. Yellowstone isn't the only hotspot. 2025 saw a spread of strong volcanic activity around the world. Merapi in Indonesia kept erupting lava and pyroclastic clouds in November, forcing tens of thousands to evacuate. Kilauea in Hawaii had a major outburst, with lava flows traveling miles in just hours. On Martinique, Mount Pelée entered a new phase of unrest after decades of relative quiet. Notably, Mount Spur in Alaska, a stratovolcano near key flight paths, recorded deep earthquakes down to 15 miles in March 2025, along with rising gas emissions. These events, seen alongside Yellowstone, paint a troubling picture. Pressure building in several large magma systems at once. Revelation 16:18 says, "Then there came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a severe earthquake. No earthquake like it has ever occurred since mankind has been on Earth. So tremendous was the quake." This isn't describing one isolated event. It's a global state where earth, fire, and air all cross the line of stability at the same time. Still, in the scientific community, there are plenty of differing views. Some volcanologists say Yellowstone is just going through its natural breathing cycle, periods of swelling and sinking from shifting magma and hydrothermal fluids. Studies published in Science and Nature in 2024 and 2025 stress that there's no direct evidence yet of magma rising to the surface on a scale that would lead to a super eruption. This view rests on seismic data, imaging, and Yellowstone's hundreds of thousands of years activity history. By their numbers, the odds of a VEI 8 eruption in any given year are extremely low. It's solid science, based on models and statistics. But the question is, when major volcanic systems worldwide are getting restless at the same time, is looking at each one separately still enough? Or are we missing a bigger picture, where deeper changes inside Earth are affecting global geologic processes? From a faith perspective, the Bible doesn't give charts or probabilities. Instead, it lays out a clear charge against humanity's condition. Isaiah 24:19-20 says, "The earth is broken up, the earth is split asunder, the earth is violently shaken. The earth reels like a drunkard, it sways like a hut in the wind. So heavy upon it is the guilt of its rebellion that it falls, never to rise again." Here, the shaking of the earth ties straight to the weight of sin. In that way of thinking, fire isn't just a physical thing, it's a consequence. It's a response. When pressure builds too long, when imbalance goes too far, release becomes unavoidable. That's true in geology and in theology. Yellowstone, in this light, becomes a frightening symbol, not because it'll definitely erupt tomorrow, but because it shows the earth isn't at rest anymore. It's under strain, much like human society is under moral, spiritual, and faith-related strain. Revelation 6:12 says, "I watched as he opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red." This is the language of total crisis, where the familiar pillars of the world lose their shape. At this point, the question isn't really whether Yellowstone will erupt. It's how we're reading these signs, as scattered data points needing more study, or as warnings that make us look at ourselves. If this fire of judgment is truly part of a larger process, it doesn't stand alone. After the fire, Scripture talks about trumpets, sounds not from deep in the earth, but from higher up, where judgment isn't a hint anymore, it's a declaration. The lingering question is, when that trumpet sounds, will humanity be ready to listen, or still busy arguing it's just nature's noise? The first trumpet has sounded. Everything started with an unusual quiet, like the earth holding its breath. Yellowstone wasn't roaring, but it was whispering, and that whisper made the air feel tense, like the moment right before a trumpet touches an angel's lips. The early shakes weren't big enough to scare folks, but they were steady enough to make people uneasy. The seismographs picked up small vibrations, one after another, without stopping. It wasn't just one earthquake, but a series, a swarm, thick and long-lasting, like a heartbeat, speeding up. In 2025, more than 1,500 small earthquakes were recorded in the Yellowstone area. Many happened deeper than 3 miles, with some clusters going almost 6 miles under the surface. The strength didn't go over 3 on the scale, but the number was unusual. The ground didn't crack open, but it kept trembling. Around the same time, in Nomos Grevenon in Greece, a 2.3 magnitude quake was noted. Small on its own, but when you look at the big picture worldwide, it becomes another note echoing along. Seismic spots thousands of miles apart started showing up in the same time periods. Revelation 8:1-2 says, "When the Lamb opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Then I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them." Silence always comes before the trumpet. Yellowstone is right in that quiet moment. In June 2025, the Black Diamond Pool area sent out low rumbles that spread through the magma rock below. It wasn't an eruption or a steam blast, but a slow shifting. Geologists called it hydrothermal unrest, but no one could explain why it was picking up so fast. By December, data from the Smithsonian showed an average of more than 22 small shakes a day at Yellowstone. There wasn't a truly quiet day. These vibrations were like steady knocking on a rock door, not breaking it, but not stopping either. The question isn't what's happening anymore, but what is it getting ready for? It's not just Yellowstone. In August 2025, the Klyuchevskoy volcano in Russia erupted, followed by a bunch of aftershocks. At Campi Flegrei in Italy, hundreds of small quakes hit in a few weeks, lifting the ground inch by inch. These hotspots are thousands of miles apart, but they woke up at the same time. Matthew 24:7 says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places, not just one spot, not one country, but in various places." The happening all at once is the real sign. Science steps in to calm things down. AI models looked at the earthquake swarms and said they were benign, harmless, not leading to an eruption. Reports from places like the Alaska Volcano Observatory showed thick shake sequences that ended without disaster. Yellowstone, they say, is just breathing. But that view misses a key thing: antipodal effects. Seismic waves don't just travel. They bounce, interfere, and trigger stress spots around the world. Supercomputer simulations late in 2025 showed swarms could sync up unstable areas thousands of miles away. Joel 2:1 says, "Blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on my holy hill. Let all who live in the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming." The trumpet doesn't have to be a sound you hear with your ears. It could be tremors, vibrations, a rhythm that makes the whole earth shake. If science calls it data, the Bible calls it a warning. One side measures in magnitude and miles, the other in how awake people's hearts are. Two different ways to read it, but both pointing the same direction. The earth isn't as steady as it used to be. Do you ever wonder, if this is just random, why are all these unstable spots waking up together? And if it's natural law, why did the Bible describe that exact rhythm thousands of years ago? Revelation 8-7 goes on. "The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth." Before the disaster comes the trumpet. Before the trumpet, the shaking. Yellowstone hasn't erupted yet, but the ground has started answering back. You don't need a big blast to call it the beginning. Just a steady tremor, long enough, wide enough, to make the whole planet listen. The first trumpet doesn't tear the sky open, it makes the ground shake, little by little, reminding us that time isn't standing still. And if the trumpet has already sounded in the silence, then how fast is the clock ticking for the end times? The countdown clock to the end times has started ticking. This clock isn't hanging on a wall. It's buried deep under layers of rock, miles thick, where Yellowstone keeps shifting and moving. Every little quake, every time the ground swells up or sinks down, feels like an unstoppable tick-tock. If that clock has already started running, the real question isn't when, but are people paying attention to those countdown beats? The data coming in during 2025 doesn't leave much room for ignoring it. Ground swelling at Yellowstone measured several inches in just a few months, with sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide gases rising in unusual ways, based on geophysical reports released late in the summer. This isn't just one lone sign, it's a series of them, linking together, making it feel like time is getting squeezed, as if everything is speeding up towards something big. When Yellowstone stirs, the rest of the world doesn't stay quiet. From Popocatépetl in Mexico with its ongoing unrest episodes in November, to Iceland calming down in August but still on high alert, the global picture shows a pattern that's hard to miss. Not every spot is erupting, but restless activity is popping up across major fault lines, like the Earth is entering a long stretch of tension. In that setting, the Bible doesn't come across as just an illustration. It's like a final judgment already written out. Isaiah 24:19-20 says, "The earth will break apart, the earth will crack open, the earth will shake violently, the earth will stagger like a drunk, sway like a hut in the wind. Its sin will weigh heavy on it. It will fall, never to rise again." These words aren't describing a quick moment. They paint a lasting state for a world that's gone past its limits. From this view, Yellowstone isn't just a supervolcano anymore. It turns into a symbol of the earth shaking, where pressures built up over ages start breaking through. The clock doesn't tick with second hands. It's measured by the earth's patience running out against human sin and indifference. Still, not everyone sees it the same way. Many scientists say there's no solid proof of a big eruption coming soon, and the current signals fit within the normal ups and downs of a complicated geological system. That view relies on stats, past eruption records, and the limits of today's forecasting tech. From a pure science angle, that caution makes sense. But right at the crossroads of those views, questions about faith start ringing out loud. If science talks about odds and scenarios. The Bible talks about meaning and consequences. Between those two perspectives, everyone has to ask themselves, are these shakes just physical movements or a moral wake-up call for all of us? Revelation 11:18 records a clear judgment. The nations raged, but your wrath has come, and the time for judging the dead, and for rewarding your servants, and for destroying those who destroy the earth. Here, the earth isn't just a victim of natural forces, it's a witness to how people act. The judgment doesn't just drop from the sky, it's triggered by how humanity treats the world we live in. That doomsday clock, seen in this light, isn't just something scary, it's a call to wake up. Every rumble under Yellowstone is like the same question over and over. Will people keep living like they've never been warned, or stop and think about the path they're on? The kind of preparation the Bible calls for doesn't start with building bunkers or guessing dates. It's about turning away from wrong, changing our ways, and getting back to the core values of faith. When the ground shakes, what's really tested isn't just the rock beneath us, it's the moral foundation of our whole society. At this point, there are no easy comforts. The clock has started ticking, whether folks admit it or not. Yellowstone is just one place where the countdown feels clearer, more real, leaving no room for delay. And as the hands get closer to zero, the question isn't aimed outward anymore. It's pointed straight at each of us. If that day comes sooner than expected, is humanity's faith ready to face the final judgment? All the pieces are now fitting together. From the quiet rumblings deep under Yellowstone, to volcanoes waking up all over the world at the same time, to earthquakes that send ripples far beyond their borders and beyond what plain science can explain, everything is coming together into one clear picture. It's no longer scattered bits and pieces. This isn't just a story about rocks, fire, and pressure. It's the story of a world entering a time of deep unrest, where the familiar order is starting to shake and time doesn't feel carefree anymore. When you set this picture inside the bigger frame of the Bible, what's happening doesn't look random at all. Revelation 8:6-7 says, "The 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth." Those tremors from deep in the ground, the fires and ash covering the sky, it all echoes like that trumpet has already sounded, starting a series of warnings we can't ignore. The clock has started ticking, not with hands or numbers on a screen, but with every shake of the earth, every sign piling up at the same time in different places. Matthew 24-42 reminds us, "Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come." Humanity doesn't have much time left to put things off. No extra days to brush aside warnings that are ringing louder than ever. In the middle of all this unease, the main message isn't fear, it's turning back. This is the time when each of us is called to trust in the Lord, repent, wake up, and pray, not with empty words, but with a humble and honest heart. Joel 2:12 says, "Return to me with all your heart, with fasting and weeping and mourning." That's the only path to finding peace while the world shakes. If you're watching right to the end, take a quiet moment. Leave a prayer in the comments, or a thought, or just a cry from the heart. It's more than just commenting. It's a sign of a heart looking for light in the darkness. If this video has given you something to think about, please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any future warnings or wake-up messages. Thank you for staying with me to the end. May the Lord give you and your family peace and protection in the days ahead. Amen. Have you ever wondered If everything falls apart tomorrow, would we even notice the signs today? America, the land of skyscrapers and endless highways, is shaking. Natural disasters are hitting like invisible blades, tearing things apart, flipping them over, sweeping away everything we've proudly built. This isn't just cold coincidence anymore. It feels like an urgent whisper from above, coming faster and harder, warning that humanity is sliding quickly toward the final edge. From tornadoes ripping through homes in Illinois and Missouri, fierce winds flipping cars on bridges, lightning sparking fires in California, to floods swallowing vehicles in Oxford, Mississippi, massive swirling flocks of birds over Oklahoma skies, waterfalls turning into rainbows, shopping malls drowned in muddy water. 10 events, like 10 dark puzzle pieces, stretching from the Midwest to the West Coast, fitting together into a picture that makes it feel like time is running out. Do you think this is just news, or a wake-up call meant for us? If all these signs are showing up at once, the question is, how much time do we have left? Let's keep going, because these terrifying pieces are only just starting to come into view. And you won't have to wait long, because right below here we're going to start with 1. Full view of the tornado in a parking lot, homes torn to pieces. The video starts without any warning. In just the first few seconds, a normal parking lot in Mount Zion, Illinois, changes completely. That moment makes you hold your breath, like you're right in the middle of the storm. No one screams, no one has time to run. There's just the roar of the wind and that chilling feeling when you realize things we think are solid can vanish in an instant. You're watching it all through the shaky frames. The tornado doesn't come slowly. It hits like a bolt from the blue, ripping sturdy homes into hundreds of pieces, tossing cars around like toys, sweeping away metal roofs, power poles, and signs. The quiet parking lot from a minute ago turns into a battlefield, with debris flying everywhere, spinning in the air like invisible blades. The video doesn't need any narration. The pictures alone show how helpless people are against nature's power. Weather reports from the Midwest say tornadoes in Illinois and Missouri can reach speeds up to 150 miles per hour, flattening thousands of square feet in a flash. This extreme weather system isn't isolated. It stretches from Missouri to Kentucky, creating a chain of destruction. Looking at the video, it's not just one spot wrecked. You see a whole region being tested, like something bigger is at work behind those wild winds. When you put this scene next to the words in Matthew 24:7-8, the Bible seems to whisper a chilling hint. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. The chaos in the video isn't called the end of the world, but it feels like the first knock on the door, warning that something more serious is getting closer. Of course, some people say this is just the result of climate change, the natural outcome of mistakes we've made to the environment. That explanation sounds reasonable. But when fierce tornadoes keep coming, one after another, with worse damage each time, viewers start to wonder, is this just plain science? Or is it a deeper reminder, like the warnings in the Bible? Luke 21:11 adds to the picture by talking about great earthquakes and fearful events and great signs from heaven. The Mount Zion video doesn't claim to be a miracle, but it leaves viewers with a hard-to-name unease, like we're being shown a sign, not just a random disaster. As the final frames fade, rubble stretches for miles, with no clear lines left between homes, roads, and parking lots. The feeling that lingers isn't just fear, it's the realization that America, the symbol of strength and control, can be shaken in a moment. And if one tornado can tear apart a whole neighborhood like that, what will happen when that power doesn't stop at wood and concrete, but starts hurling metal and steel into the sky? 2. Tornado tosses construction site metal sheets around. No warning siren, no sign it was coming. In just a quick moment, video from a construction site in Stamford, Texas, catches folks off guard as huge metal sheets suddenly lift off the ground, floating in the air like some invisible hand picked them up. The first feeling isn't fear, It's shock, because that sight goes against everything we know about wind and gravity. The tornado didn't roar loud like in the movies. It came quiet, then suddenly picked up speed, lifting those heavy metal pieces, tons of them, off the site, spinning them around and hurling them dozens of yards away like spears. Wind whistling through the air, metal clanging against metal. It made for a tense scene that takes your breath away, where the line between safe and dead is just a few seconds. According to reports from Service Steel and the National Weather Service, areas in Texas and Oklahoma often get tornadoes that hit 200 miles per hour. In those conditions, metal pieces from barns, buildings, or construction sites can get thrown up to 75 yards, turning into deadly flying bullets for workers and anyone nearby. Watching the video, we don't just see things getting swept away. We feel how fragile people are against a power that's invisible, unpredictable, and uncontrollable. Safety experts keep warning that metal caught in the wind is one of the deadliest dangers in a tornado, because it flies fast, it's heavy, and there's no set path. Even a small piece can punch through walls, glass, or even a person's body. When you watch those images, the feeling isn't just curiosity anymore, it's a quiet unease, like any of us could be right there at the wrong time. Putting this scene next to the warning in Revelation 16:21, the Bible seems to ring like a bell, and huge hailstones, about the weight of a talent each, came down from heaven on people, and people cursed God because of the plague of the hail, since its plague was extremely severe. Metal isn't hail, but when it falls from high up with terrible wind force, it carries the same meaning, objects dropping from the sky, beyond human control. Luke 21:25 goes on with that warning picture, talking about signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth, distress among nations in perplexity at the roaring of the sea and the waves. What happened at that Texas site might be called extreme weather, but the confusion and worry it puts in viewers' hearts feels very real, very close, and hard to ignore. Some say it's just a dangerous coincidence of nature, the result of harsher climate these days. But when those metal sheets get lifted and thrown with scary accuracy, a quiet question comes up. Is it all random, or a warning sent in the language of wind? In that light, the message gets clearer than ever. God is using this invisible power to remind folks to stay alert. And if wind can turn a construction site into a battlefield in just seconds, what'll happen when it hits high bridges, where heavy trucks weighing dozens of tons become like toys in front of the fierce storm waiting ahead? 3. Trucks blown over on the highway bridge. Traffic was moving along just fine when everything suddenly went haywire. On a highway bridge in Wyoming, the wind started howling like a siren, and in just a few seconds, those big semi-trucks weighing tons got tipped sideways and crashed down onto the road. The interstate turned into a total mess, with horns blaring over each other and metal screeching in the chaos. Can you even imagine that helpless feeling when a gust of wind can stop traffic cold and change people's lives in an instant? According to AccuWeather and Fox News, bridges like the ones in Wyoming or the Richmond-San Rafael in California are known hotspots for strong winds. But this time, the gusts hit up to 83 miles per hour, strong enough to flip over long trucks and cause backups for miles. Dozens of vehicles got stuck, drivers couldn't move forward or back, and they just had to sit there, scared, waiting it out. In the video that was recorded, it all happens so fast, it's breathtaking. A container truck leans way over to one side, wheels lifting off the pavement, with the sound of metal crashing echoing everywhere. People seem so small and powerless against that roaring wind, like some invisible force is testing how much they can take. Psalm 107:25 comes to mind as a familiar reminder. For he commandeth, and raiseth the stormy wind, which lifteth up the waves thereof. The Bible doesn't get into the technical details, but it points to something deeper. There are powers beyond what humans can control, forces that science can measure, but not tame. The damage added up quick. Lots of trucks badly wrecked, traffic shut down for hours, the economy disrupted, and if things had dragged on just a bit longer, the harm to people could have been a whole lot worse. In that moment, the everyday order of modern life, roads, engines, schedules, suddenly felt awfully fragile. Matthew 24-29 paints an even bigger picture. The sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. It's not meant as blame, but as a gentle nudge. When things get shaken up like this, it makes us stop and think about what we really put our trust in. Of course, folks started arguing right away. Some say the bridge design isn't good enough, or the wind warnings weren't strong enough. But if it's just about engineering, why do these unusual, intense winds keep hitting key routes like this? What do you think? Is it simply human error, or something bigger trying to get our attention? This event drives home a hard truth. We're more fragile than we like to admit when facing nature or some unseen power. And when wind can toss trucks around like toys, the question isn't just when will they fix the bridge, but are we ready? Because from these fierce gusts, sometimes all it takes is one flash of lightning and everything moves into a whole new chapter. 4. Lightning sparks fire in the storm. A flash of light ripped across the sky, and then flames shot up right in front of someone's eyes. In California, a resident was filming a big dark storm rolling in when lightning suddenly hit, sending sparks flying everywhere and scaring them enough to rush back inside the house. No warning siren, no time to get ready, just one quick moment, and the line between safety and disaster was gone. The storm didn't come in easy. Clouds hung low, wind howled in gusts, and thunder boomed like cannon fire. Lightning struck the ground. Sparks scattered all over. Smoke got blown back up into the air, leaving the whole area in a state of terror. What would you do if you were facing fire from the sky like that, knowing that just a second too slow could end everything? According to CalMatters and SF Gate, California saw more than 4,500 lightning strikes in recent storms, with many directly starting wildfires that burned thousands of acres on the West Coast. Those dry forests turn into perfect fuel, and each bolt isn't just a flash anymore, it's the start of a spreading disaster. Ezekiel 13:13 comes across as a strong warning. In my wrath I will unleash a violent wind, and in my anger hailstones and torrents of rain will fall with destructive fury. The words from the Bible don't feel like some distant metaphor anymore. They sound like a direct call-out. When storms and fire from heaven pour down together, it's not just weather. It's revealing the consequences of a world that's gone too far. Things kept getting worse. Flames caught on the trees, smoke covered the sky, wind carried ashes miles away. What started with one single bolt quickly turned into a chain reaction where people could only run and had no way to stop it. Luke 21:11 makes it even heavier. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven. This isn't meant to comfort. It's a stark judgment. Those signs from the sky aren't there to spark curiosity, but to make humanity face its own accountability. Of course, arguments broke out right away. Science talks about electrical charges, atmospheric friction, harsh weather cycles. But when lightning strikes keep surging, when fire from the sky keeps leading to wildfires and panic, is it all just random? What do you think? Is this a natural coincidence or a direct challenge to the way people live and the choices they make? The final message rings out like an alarm bell. Lightning doesn't just burn trees. It's like God's finger pointing straight at human sin and pride. And if fire from above is enough to scare a whole state, just think, what'll happen when the endless rains come pouring down afterward? Because somewhere out there, in the mud and floods, a stray dog is struggling to survive, setting up a story that's even more heartbreaking. 5. A stray dog hides under a statue of Jesus to escape disaster. In the steady drizzle at a small church in Orlando, Florida, The scene was quiet and peaceful in a strange way. Under the statue of Jesus standing still in the yard, a skinny stray dog quietly slipped into the base, curled up, and went to sleep. In that moment, we didn't just see an animal avoiding the rain. It was a picture that touched the heart, made it soften, like something truly sacred was happening. The rain wasn't heavy, but it kept coming. The wind was cold, and the dog was shivering from being soaked. It didn't bark or run around. It just quietly nestled under the shadow of the stone statue, the only dry and calm spot. It felt like the dog had picked the right place, as if instinct guided it to somewhere that could offer a bit of warmth in a troubled world out there. During big storms, many wild animals seek shelter near churches, monasteries, or religious buildings. To some folks, that's just coincidence, but others see it as a quiet symbol of protection, a place of refuge beyond the material things. The image of the dog lying under the statue of Jesus brings to mind Psalm 46:1. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Those Bible words seem to explain that moment, that in times of hardship, every living creature seeks a safe place, whether human or a small, speechless animal. The scene kept unfolding slowly. The rain still fell. The statue stood motionless, and the dog slept deeper, its breathing steady. No dramatic miracle, no blinding light, just a gentle, real peace that moved anyone who saw it. A strange warmth spread from that silence. Of course, people argue about it. Some say it's just instinct, a dog finding shelter like anywhere else. But others wonder, if it was just about avoiding rain, why did it choose right under the statue of Jesus when there were other dry spots around? What do you think? Is it random or a subtle sign we often miss? Matthew 6:26 comes to mind as a gentle reminder. Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. If God cares for the birds of the sky, then the protection for a stray dog is probably part of that same love. In the end, this picture leaves a quiet but deep message. God watches over even the smallest creatures, reminding us that faith isn't just in words, but in turning back, in finding refuge when needed. And when that stray dog found shelter under the statue of Jesus, it makes you wonder, what about us? Because somewhere else, over the skies of Oklahoma, a huge flock of birds is gathering in an unusual way, as if they know something coming that people haven't noticed yet. 6. A massive flock of birds forms over Oklahoma under a chemtrailed sky. The sky over Oklahoma suddenly looked different. No thunder, no rain, but a strange feeling spread as tiny black dots started moving, then merged into a huge flowing mass up above. A flock of birds showed up out of nowhere, swirling like a living thing, making folks who saw it feel like nature was whispering something urgent, something hard to put into words. In just minutes, the sky was covered by millions of them. Migrating flocks joined into one unusually big group, stretching for miles, wings beating hard like crashing waves. They say up to 2.9 million birds flew through at the same time, way more than a normal migration season. The air felt heavy, light got chopped up, and there we were down below, suddenly realizing how small we are compared to some invisible order working overhead. Experts say it's a seasonal migration thing, tied to air pressure, high-altitude winds, and signs of extreme weather coming. Birds can sense changes in Earth's magnetic field and spot big storms before our gadgets do. But even with those scientific explanations, the uneasy feeling doesn't go away, because the size and timing of this flock seem to go beyond any patterns we've known before. Right then, the Bible comes to mind more as a hint than a final answer. In Matthew 24-28, it says, "Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather." Not talking about birds in a biology way, but as a picture for gathering before a big event, when the old order is about to be exposed. And in Luke 21:25, the warning goes on. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity. Signs in the sky. Could this be one of them? A lot of people push back, saying linking the Bible to a natural event is just reading too much into it. Birds have been migrating for thousands of years, and the sky has been blocked like this before. But if it's just a natural cycle, why are these things happening more often now, at the same time as disasters, storms, fires from the sky, and chaos everywhere? Do you think it's just coincidence, or a pattern repeating, just like what's been warned about for so long? As the flock slowly faded toward the horizon, the sky got quiet again in a suspicious way. But that quiet didn't bring peace. It felt like the pause before a new chapter. If animals can sense and react to what's coming, what are we humans, with our reason and faith, doing about it? And if the sky has already spoken with millions of wings, what message is that upcoming rainbow cascade in Yosemite going to hide next? 7. The waterfall suddenly turns into a rainbow at Yosemite National Park. The sky over Yosemite opens up with a moment that leaves you speechless. Between the huge rock walls and the waterfall dropping from over 2,400 feet, the sunlight suddenly bends the water into a giant rainbow hanging in the air. Standing there in front of it, it's hard not to feel overwhelmed, like nature just lifted a secret curtain to remind us there are still things way beyond what we can figure out or explain. The water sprays up hard from strong winds, and every tiny drop turns into a little prism, breaking the sunlight into bright bands of color. The whole place feels like it's covered in something magical, gentle yet solemn at the same time. A lot of folks just stand there quietly, not saying a word, because that kind of beauty doesn't just look good. It stirs up a deep, holy feeling that's tough to put into words, almost like a message coming down from above. In the Bible, a rainbow has never been just some weather thing. Genesis 9:13 has God saying, "I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and the earth." It's a mark of his promise of protection after the flood. Then in Revelation 10:1, it shows up again. "Then I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven. He was robed in a cloud with a rainbow above his head." So the rainbow stands for grace and also a sign of big revelations to come. Scientists explain it with optics. Winds around 50 miles an hour blow the waterfall mist up into the air, and sunlight hits it at just the right angle to make a rainbow. It's a perfect mix of water, wind, and light, a precise thing nature does. But when you put that explanation next to how the Bible sees the rainbow as a sign of covenant and something from heaven, the two views split into very different paths. One side says it's just physics, pretty, but meaningless. The other sees the timing of this beauty as no accident, especially when the world is full of disasters, storms, and chaos. If it's only natural, why does it keep showing up right in the middle of all these troubling signs? And if it's a reminder from God, are we taking it as comfort or as a warning? The rainbow over the Yosemite waterfall brings hope, but it also leaves you with some uneasy thoughts. It reminds us God promised to protect, but it doesn't hide the warnings he's given long ago. This beauty doesn't wipe away the darkness that's coming. It lights things up so we can take a good look at ourselves. As the rainbow fades with the wind, the waterfall goes back to roaring like before. And if we can watch something so breathtaking and still miss the message behind it, what will happen when nature isn't so gentle anymore? Because right after this beauty, a car getting swept away by floodwaters shows the harsh side of these signs we can't ignore. 8. The car that ignored the floodwaters and got swept away. It all started with a familiar kind of overconfidence on a stretch of highway in Sonoma County. The rain had just stopped. The floodwater was only up to the wheels, and the driver figured they still had things under control. We've seen that moment way too many times. A short pause, a step on the gas, and the thought that, "I'll be fine." But that little bit of confidence can lead to real tragedy. In a split second, the water changed color and picked up speed. Muddy runoff from upstream suddenly rose higher, pressed against the car, and yanked it hard like an invisible hand. The vehicle swayed. The tires lost traction. The engine roared one last time before it died. That heavy chunk of metal, tons of it, got pushed along like a dry leaf, spinning sideways, banging into barriers, then vanishing into the rushing current. This is the kind of thing that should make every one of us stop and think. Natural disasters don't bargain, and floodwater is never as harmless as it looks. Scenes like this keep happening in different places, even with all the warning signs we're used to seeing. Some folks say the accident was just the driver being careless, misjudging how deep the water was. But the debate heats up when witnesses insist the water level shot up unusually fast in just a few dozen seconds, too quick to react. So is the blame all on people? Or is there something bigger at play that we can't fully predict? The Bible comes in here not to comfort, but as a straightforward call-out on human pride. In Psalm 69-15, there's this cry for help. Do not let the floodwaters engulf me, or the depths swallow me up, or the pit close its mouth over me. It's not just a plea. It's a picture of what it's like facing power we can't control. And in Luke 21:11, the warning goes on. There will be great earthquakes and fearful events. Floods aren't just weather anymore. They're a reminder of how fragile our pride really is. The car disappeared under the water, leaving behind an empty, chilling space and some late regrets. This wasn't just a traffic mishap. It was a serious wake-up call that God has warned us, nature has warned us, but people still choose to ignore it. And if one lone car got swallowed up that easily, then when the massive flood hits Oxford, what else will that water monster carry away? 9. Close-up view of the rushing floodwaters in Oxford, America. Oxford, Mississippi, is going through a heavy, breathless moment. It's no longer just puddles along the roadside. The flood comes like a powerful force waking up, muddy and cold, rushing over the pavement so fast you barely have time to think. Right from the start, it's not panic you feel, but a quiet pressure, like something more serious is happening right in front of you. The water starts roaring as it rises minute by minute. Trees get uprooted, trash and debris swirl around, crashing into each other in a fierce current. Familiar roads turn into angry rivers, with white foam slamming against the curbs. The signs, everything still standing. Watching it, you quickly realize that one wrong step could lead to something you can't undo. In the middle of all that chaos, the Bible rings out like a calm but stern judgment, not pointing fingers at any one person, but looking at a whole system that's starting to shake. In Amos 9-5, it says, "The Lord God of hosts is he that toucheth the land, and it shall melt, and all that dwell therein shall mourn, and it shall rise up wholly like a flood, and shall be drowned as by the flood of Egypt." The picture of the land melting and water rising isn't just poetry, it's exactly what's playing out here. And in Luke 21:25, the warning goes on. "And upon the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring." This flood isn't just some isolated event, it's part of a bigger picture. Some say it's all from days of heavy rain and overloaded drainage systems. But when you see the strength of the flow, how fast the water rises, and how deep it gets, questions come up. Are the weather reports enough to explain this widespread uneasy feeling? You can call it extreme weather, but that sense of being out of control is very real and very clear. The damage reports keep climbing fast. Many roads are underwater several feet deep. Vehicles get stuck. Neighborhoods have to evacuate right away. Local authorities send out constant alerts, telling folks to stay away from fast-moving water and get ready for the worst if the levees can't hold. Those calls aren't over the top. They're a direct response to a threat that's building every minute. The water keeps rushing through Oxford, not caring about houses or streets, reminding us that this kind of power isn't something you can bargain with. It's a clear warning. When nature goes beyond its limits, people are left with a choice between staying alert or paying the price. And if a flood outside is already pushing the whole town to its limit, then when water pours into the shopping mall, places we thought were safe, what will we have left to hold on to? 10. heavy flooding at the shopping mall. The King of Prussia Mall in Pennsylvania suddenly turned into a shocking sight. Muddy water poured through the entrances, spreading fast over the shiny tile floors that used to sparkle, turning the busy shopping center into a cold, muddy mess. In the middle of all that shock, a natural question comes up. When places we thought were symbols of safety and plenty fall apart, what do we have left to hold on to? The water rose waist-high, escalators were completely underwater, and glass doors reflected blurry emergency lights. Rescue teams waded through the wrecked stores, helping people out one by one amid the constant sound of rushing water. In some spots, hundreds of folks got trapped at the same time, and hundreds of lives were saved during those tense hours. Lives were spared, but the feeling of loss hung over everything. The damage was quickly added up. Big malls like King of Prussia and Elkview got hit hard with deep flooding, shutting down completely, ruining merchandise, and breaking infrastructure. Over 500 people had to be evacuated in a hurry, and many nearby areas felt the ripple effects from wave after wave of floods. Those numbers aren't just about money. They're about how fragile the things we've worked so hard to build really are. In that picture, the Bible shows up like a final judgment, calm and straightforward. In Revelation 16:18, it says, "There were flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a great earthquake such as there had not been since man was on the earth." So great was that earthquake. These images of total shaking aren't just about the ground. They're about the foundations of our material world getting shaken to the core. Not long after, another warning rings out in Matthew 24:7-8. "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are but the beginning of the birth pains." When shopping grinds to a halt and supply chains break, these birth pains aren't abstract anymore. They're right in the middle of everyday life. Of course, there's plenty of debate about the causes. Some say heavy urbanization, all that concrete, and overloaded drainage systems are the root of the problem. Others look at how widespread it is across the country and wonder about a deeper meaning behind this string of events. No need to pick sides. The thing we're thinking about is, what do you see when similar things keep happening in different places? In the end, when shopping malls, those symbols of buying and comfort, end up underwater, a quiet message comes through. The material world, no matter how solid it seems, can fall apart in an instant. And if this is just the beginning, the question isn't what's going to happen next, but are you ready for whatever comes after? So we've just gone through 10 events showing that America is more chaotic than we thought. Which moment made you realize that the clearest? Feel free to share your answer in the comments below. 10 events have passed by like 10 deep marks carved into the land of America. From the freezing cold in Illinois to the floods in California, from roads torn apart to shopping centers sunk in muddy water. When you put them side by side, they're no longer just scattered news stories. They form one clear picture where nature keeps shaking things as if it's knocking hard on humanity's last door. These marks don't shout loudly, but they're deep enough to make folks stop and think. Some people call it coincidence, weather cycles, or the result of climate change. But others see a different message, one that's quiet but serious. In Amos 3-6, the Bible asks, "When the trumpet sounds in a city, do the people not tremble? When disaster comes to a city, has not the Lord caused it?" Those words aren't meant to scare anyone. They're there to make us ask ourselves about the connection between what we do and what's happening around us. From that point of view, natural disasters aren't just random events anymore. They become a call to turn back to God, a reminder that human power has limits and everything we build can crumble so easily. Luke 21:28 says, "When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near." Right in the middle of the warning, there's still a ray of hope. Waking up isn't about despair. It's about turning around. What's asked of us isn't panic. It's staying alert. Alert enough to listen, to think carefully, and not to brush off signs that keep coming back stronger. Matthew 24-42 reminds us, "Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come." The deep pit, if it's opening, isn't just in nature. It's also inside people's hearts, where faith has been forgotten for too long. If these recent events have left you wondering, let that wondering turn into a prayer or an honest thought. Feel free to write in the comments below what you're feeling, a request for help from above, or just a question that doesn't have an answer yet. That's one way to not stay silent about what's going on, and to keep your heart from growing hard toward the warnings. If you think these messages are worth thinking about, please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Every share can be a gentle reminder for someone else, and every subscription is a small step towards staying awake together. Thank you for listening all the way to the end, and may the Lord keep and guide you through these unsettled days. Amen.
Jesus Christ! That is huge! That is... Oh my God! Look at this rod!
Что идет куда-то? Ёбана жопа. Ага.
Просто пиздец. Куда вот это поехали? Твою мать, что за...
Have you ever wondered, if the world suddenly changed colors tomorrow, would that just be random chance? When the ground shakes, the sky tears open, oceans roar, and fire rises from deep in the earth, people start feeling an unease that's hard to put into words, like time is closing in and the future is slipping into chaos. What we're seeing these days isn't just scattered events anymore. It's a string of big changes hitting one after another, getting stronger each time, making the world feel like it's right on the edge of falling apart. From a blood-red whirlwind ripping through the desert, huge ice breaking off in Antarctica, strange lines splitting the sky, old lava coming back to life, Yellowstone acting up, oceans throwing up tall waterspouts, green auroras lighting up Texas, bright glowing balls hanging low near the ground, fire swallowing rivers, and clouds twisting like cocoons in the sky. 10 events, 10 whispers from above, all happening at once, loud and unrelenting. The Bible warned long ago, before the Lord returns, heaven and earth will shake. And now, those signs seem clearer than ever. What do you think when you look at all this? Is it just nature's cruel joke, or the last wake-up call for folks who've been sleeping through it? Come on, stop for a minute and join me as we dig into the real story behind these shocking things happening lately. You'll see the truth once the curtain gets pulled back. No more waiting, I'll get started right now with 1. A strange red whirlwind appears in the red desert. If there's one moment that can make your stomach drop just from watching a screen, it's the second that red swirl shows up. In the video shot out in the wide-open desert, a huge column of dark red, almost blood-like color, suddenly shoots straight up into the sky, ripping through the quiet of the Arizona desert. No narration needed. The pictures alone leave you stunned, because it's clear right away, something feels off, and we're watching something way out of the ordinary. The Arizona desert is known for its red dirt stretching thousands of square miles, where weather experts have seen dust whirls before because of the rocky ground and harsh heat. But in this video, it's no little puff of dust. It rises hundreds of feet high, spinning wildly, sucking up all the red dirt below and turning the clear blue sky into a gloomy red haze. Facing a sight like that, it's not just scary, it's this heavy, unseen pressure, like nature is clamping down on everything underneath. The whirlwind moves slow but with real power, winds hitting around 50 miles per hour, strong enough to toss sand and rocks around and send wild animals running in panic. From the video, you really feel how helpless people are against that kind of force, something deep and instinctive. It doesn't look like a regular storm, more like a giant hand stirring up the earth, painting the whole area red, leaving you thinking the desert isn't dead anymore. It's waking up in a threatening way. Scientists were quick to explain, it's just a dust devil, the kind of dust whirl common in deserts when hot air rises fast. The red color comes from iron-rich soil getting pulled up high, mixing with sunlight to create that scary visual effect. It sounds reasonable, and scientifically, it's correct. But looking at the actual footage, a lot of folks still get chills from how